Hello everyone, I'm your IELTS tutor Jack, and welcome back to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. Today's topic is buildings. Not necessarily a strong topic for me, but remember, in front of me here, there are no answers, but there is my free handout for today's podcast, which contains 10 fantastic vocabulary and expressions connected to today's topic, and also some key questions you're likely to find, again, within today's topic, buildings. So what I will try to do today is answer as many questions as I can, probably 5 or 6, that's normally what I'm able to get through, and I will include as many keywords as I can in my answers. So let's get into our first question in part 1, just to warm me up. I always need to. Here we go. What types of buildings are there where you live? I live in Korea. Particularly, I live in Seoul, the capital city. So we can see a lot of apartment buildings, smaller buildings which are called villas here, but I believe they are kind of small apartments or flats, as we call them in England. And there are many skyscrapers around where my office is in the business district. Okay, very concise and to the point, and I got probably a couple of words in there from my keywords. Skyscraper I know is one. Let's go to the next question. Part 1 again. Have you ever visited a famous structure? Yes, I've visited many famous structures. The first one that comes to my mind would be Sydney Opera House. This is an iconic building in Sydney Harbour, and as you can tell by the name, it is an opera house where they do, I've never been inside, but I assume they do operas and classical performances. It's a really amazing looking building. Very unique, almost futuristic in its look, but yes, it was a striking building and something that remains in my memory. Okay, I think that's good. Part 1 is done, and let's do a part 2 today again. So I'm going to prepare 2 minutes on my clock, and as usual, I won't give myself any time to prepare. But as you know, I don't have any answers prepared. I do freestyle it, but I will be using my structure that I always use. On that point regarding my structure, just remember, I will go through the past, the present, and the future. So try to listen to that as I'm giving my answer. It will show you how I manage my answer. So I've got 2 minutes prepared on the clock, and the question is as follows. Describe a style of architecture that you like. Okay. 2 minutes starts now. I'm not a big fan of architecture, and I don't really pay much attention to types of architecture. But what comes to my mind is the traditional buildings of the Alps in Europe. I first came across these buildings when I was traveling in Austria and South Germany. And I saw that these buildings had very tall and steep roofs. They also had these balconies with lots of flowers arranged on them, or some kind of bush or plant. They're also heavily made of wood. So I was really struck by the appearance of them, and I thought they were absolutely beautiful. And by the way, these buildings that I'm talking about are just typical townhouses or houses that are lived in by families. So let me tell you a little more about these houses. As I said, they have a very steep roof, and as I understand, these are made for the snow to fall off easily so that the snow doesn't collect on the roofs. This is important because they are in the Alps in Europe. As I mentioned as well, there are many flowers, and these balconies. And what I understand about that is in the summer, they stop the scent of the flowers, or the scent of this foliage stops mosquitoes gathering around the houses. So everything has a function. I loved these houses, and I really hope that I can live in this kind of house in the future. I'm sure they are expensive. I'm sure there are cheaper styles of houses in the towns, but I was really attracted to these Austrian style houses. Okay, there you go, 2 minutes. I have to say, that wasn't easy. I had no plan for what I was going to talk about, and I don't know anything about architecture. I don't know the names of the different types of architecture, and I wanted to keep it simple as well. So remember, if you're in my situation, just go with what comes to your mind first and what you have experienced directly. If that is just simply the architecture outside your window right now, that's fine. It doesn't have to be your favorite architecture, just the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't overcomplicate a difficult question. Okay, so let's do some part 3. Do you think it's worth the money to preserve old buildings? Yes, I think it's worth the money. Old buildings are really important to the area, to the town or city, because it's part of the area's heritage. It's so easy to demolish these buildings and replace them with more practical or modern styles of building, especially nowadays as we're trying to be more eco-friendly. But sometimes you have to find a balance between, practical living and actually keeping some of that history and heritage, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, I think that was a reasonable answer, and I actually got 3 or 4 key words in there from the list. Heritage, eco-friendly, demolish. I think those 3 I got into my answer. Remember, you can find all of these words on the free handout on my website. Let's do another question. How have buildings changed in the past few years? In the past few years, it's quite a short period to talk about in the past few years, but what I can notice in Korea, because I've been here for 10 years, is the apartments have become more eco-friendly, and their design has become, they've started to incorporate more variety. We used to see these horrible white monstrosities, these apartment complexes, and they call them matchbox apartments because everything looks the same. This was about 10 years ago, but nowadays they really try to get that variety and make the buildings sort of blend into the surroundings a little more naturally. Okay, I'm quite happy with that answer. Not bad. I got a few keywords. Monstrosity was one of them. A very ugly building. Let's do one more question and we'll wrap up today's episode. Are buildings now better than those in the past? Yes, I think buildings in some ways are better now than they were in the past. I keep going back to the word eco-friendly, but that's such a key word nowadays, and the modernization of apartments and architecture and things like that is so important. So nowadays they are using solar panels. They have these incredible systems in the apartments to get rid of waste. So in that sense, I think buildings now are better in the past. Just as one more point though, I would say that in some ways, particularly in terms of beauty, they haven't improved. And I think some of the buildings from the past, particularly the small houses, carry a lot more character and beauty than more modern buildings. Okay, I think I've answered as many as I can today, and I managed to get through all questions on today's free materials. So check those questions out, listen to my answers, and of course, try your own. Compare your answers to mine. Perhaps they're better than mine. So thanks for listening to today's episode. As always, go and check out jacksenglish.com. That's jacks-english.com, and get your free materials there. And thank you for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye-bye.